Laura, I think you got muted.
I did get muted.
I lost
Thanks,
you,
Jason.
Frank DeRosa.
Yeah, okay, so Frank said hello. And I'm going to kick us off. I got a couple of slides just to get us prepped. Want to make you aware we're here to help facilitate the conversation. So for our audience, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, raise a hand in Teams, and we'll try to make this conversation as interactive as possible. I will be occasionally putting things in the poll or chat area, just asking some different questions as we go throughout today's presentation. So before I get started, I want to introduce Jason Williams, VP at FIS Impact Ventures. My name is Laura Gibson Lamoth. I'm the Executive Director of the Georgia Fintech Academy. And for those that have joined, most of you have heard of us through the Fintech curriculum that's facilitated within the University System of Georgia. But we also do events like this twice a night, each night of the week during the spring and fall semesters. So we're quite busy doing content, delivering content like this this evening. Just for the purpose of housekeeping, we have a couple of events coming up that I want to make sure that you guys are all aware of. One being the KSU, Kennesaw State University digital payment seminar, which is open to each and every one of you to attend, even though you are not. Some of you might be KSU students, but some of you who are not KSU students, please feel free to check that event out and register. We have it posted on our site. We also have it linked out in GroupMe. If you guys do not follow us or are not connected in GroupMe, please use this QR code to connect with us there. We are always posting event updates, internships, full-time job opportunities. And today we're going to hear from Jason on the theme or topic of real-time payments. But then we also have recruiting and Jessica and team following up that conversation with a little bit about FIS opportunities to work with FIS. So without further ado, Jason, I will turn it over to you.
Perfect. So good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Williams. I've been, a little bit about my background. So I currently right now I've got responsibility for business development initiatives across FIS's retail and money movement payment segments. I've been at FIS 10 years, various roles. I started out managing our solution architecture group. So think a group of technologists helping banks implement FIS tech. I've been involved in our API initiatives, our core banking modernization strategies, our investment strategies with fintech partners, and now I kind of oversee some business development. Prior to FIS, I've had various roles in the fintech space. I was with Western Union, working in their I'll call it it was their prepaid division, but you could kind of think of it as a precursor to some banking as a service type initiatives. Prior to that, I was with SAP in the retail division. So I've been around a bit, done a few different things. So pleasure to talk to you guys tonight. I got this agenda a couple weeks ago, and we started down the path of talking about RTP, and I started creating some slides, and I realized I was maybe perhaps going to put myself to sleep, and if I was putting myself to sleep, I was going to put you to sleep. So what I kind of thought tonight is I kind of thought it might be worthwhile to talk about. I'll do a bit of an audible, and I'll talk about what are real-time payments, what's kind of going on globally, U.S. market, but I then thought I'd get into how we think about the problems that RTP is kind of bringing to the U.S. market, the opportunities that we're seeing, because FIS, we view ourselves as the world's largest fintech. So how we kind of view the problem, the opportunities, and how we go about thinking about solutions and how to drive value to banks. And I thought that might be interesting, given all of you guys are budding future entrepreneurs in the fintech space. So if that works for everybody, I'll get right into it. Perfect. While I present, I'm going to kill my camera just because it's Teams. And it causes me a bunch of problems. Sometimes they'll give me low bandwidth errors and the like. So while I present, I will go off camera to share my screen, and then as the discussion comes, I will I'll come back on. I want this obviously to be kind of interactive. The first couple of slides, I'm just going to set the stage around what real-time payments are, kind of what we're seeing kind of globally, and then I'll get into kind of some of the more fun discussions around what we're kind of seeing, the challenges for the banks, the opportunities that we kind of see in that fintech vertical, and how we're thinking about solutioning. And ask questions as we go along here. So with that being said, let me share my screen. And I will just quickly kill my camera. And can everyone see my screen?
Yep, we can.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, and I'm not too familiar with the Georgia FinTech Academy. So, when I talk about real-time payments, is it, do we have a general knowledge of it? Are we starting from scratch? I'm going to keep it kind of high level. And if anyone has any deep dive type questions, fire away. But I'm coming in from the fact that you've maybe had a general knowledge of this. You kind of heard about it, but that's pretty much about it. I just want to make sure I'm kind of hitting the mark, and I don't have a bunch of experts here that are about to ask me message formats and how we handle errors and reconciliation. So, all right. So with that being said, so what are real-time payments, and how do real-time payments work? So real-time payments, their goal is to enable near instantaneous to instantaneous transfer of funds between accounts. Real-time payments, also known as immediate or instant payments, describe really any account-to-account fund transfer that allows for the immediate availability of funds to the recipient of that transaction. I'm not sure everyone's knowledge in terms of the U.S. banking system, but contrary to what you may believe, prior to 2017, there's no such thing as an instant payment. So while you may have, I'm using air quotes, I'm not on camera, received your funds instantaneously, trust me, they were not being settled instantaneously in the background. So that changed about 2017, and we'll get into that in a second. But basically, once authorized, deducted instantly from the payer. Seconds, payments are available 24/7, 365 days a year. One of the things that I've got a little spelling mistake there, but one of the things that are kind of the hallmarks of real-time payments, they are irrevocable, meaning payments cannot be reversed after authorization. All real-time payment transactions involve 5 things: the sender, or the payer, the payer's financial institution, the receiver, and the payee's financial institution, and the real-time payment network. And there's various ones throughout the globe. I'll get into that one in a second. But in general, the exact process for real-time payments, it varies depending on the payment system being used. But in general, the steps outlined here are, starting at 1, the payer initiates the payment using a payment system or app, which connects to their bank account, credit, debit card, and the like. Number 2, the payment system then verifies the payer's identity and funds availability before authorizing the payment. The payment is transmitted to the recipient's bank or payment system in real time. We then have the recipient's bank or payment system verifies the recipient's identity, their account details, all this before crediting the payment to their account. The payer's account is then debited instantaneously upon authorization of that payment. And then the payment system or a bank provides confirmation that the payment to both the payer and the recipient went through. That's real-time payments in a nutshell. And you're probably thinking, well, that's a big so what? But what it's really done throughout the globe is it's really driven some innovation. I'll get into that in a second, but what's before I get into kind of what's driving our RTP, right? So I got a snapshot view that I grabbed from I grabbed with doing some research on the web, and in general, I think there's more than 40 countries have implemented some form of instant payment stream, and I believe we have close to 60 real-time payment rails that were live by the end of last year. And what's really interesting about these is these instant payment rails are driving a ton of innovation and a wealth of cutting-edge payment services. And it really kind of confirming that instant payments is really going to shift from merely being kind of a thought amongst the banks. So we're going to move away from banks and simplicity amongst money movement with the banks. And it's really going to be a dynamic discussion on how instant payments can really add real value to end consumers. Things that were kind of driving this, so customer demand for instant payment, driving the need for improving existing payment rails within real-time settlement. Regulation, a lot of countries out there have initiatives around driving innovation with development of newer, faster payment schemes. I'll give you a great example. Europe introduced PSD, which stands for the Payment Service Directive. Then they drove PSD2, which was the Payment Service Directive 2, and now they're into PSD3. And what that really allowed for was the opening of the banks, the opening of payments, really allowed the fintechs to start playing in the domains of the banks, and really drove some innovation there. I'll get to a couple of examples in a second. Standards, the use of ISO standards recognized as a key element. So what that means is the ability for individuals, merchants, businesses and the like to basically pull a payment from a customer or client. This is prevalent in areas like Australia, Europe, I believe Malaysia, and UK. I use UK and Europe kind of interchangeably, but I know they're distinct now. So the UK, and really what enables the payer to pay in full, in part, decline, or ask for more timing, giving them kind of greater control of that payment. You then have things like real-time payments at the POS, which is really the ability to pay for goods and services directly at time of checkout without the need for cards. Again, prevalent in places like Europe. Payment through aliases. So being able to pay without the need for customers to use, long, forgettable account numbers, basically to transfer money. Australia is a real driver of that. They've got a thing called Pay ID, which is a national alias scheme that allows account holders to link, their phone number, email, address to a bank account and pay using an ID. And if any of you guys have used U.S. services like Zelle, they've got underlying payment system in the Zelle that use directories of aliases, establishing kind of common user-friendly experiences, right? So Zelle, to some extent, has done that in the U.S. Confirmation of payee kind of gives greater assurances that users are sending their payments to the intended recipient. Is one of the things that we'll talk about in the second year's real-time payments. With real-time payments comes real-time fraud. So seeing a lot of innovation around real-time fraud monitoring, transaction monitoring coming out of RTP. In fact, the UK has kind of mandated that they've got a direction now to ensure that the UK's largest banks, basically have confirmation of payee, and I think that went live end of 2021. And then the bigger drivers, corporate payments and P2P services. So corporate really drives the large swath of innovation in RTP networks. I've got a slide coming up on that one as well. The P2P services. So really just wanted to take a snapshot of kind of what's going on around the globe, with respect to RTP. Now in the US, we've been really slow to adopt real-time payments network, largely driven by the fact that the US is, as much regulation we have in banks, I think they were, kind of slow to adopt, forcing a mandate, wanted to take a crawl, walk, run approach to how to bring a real-time payment network to the US. So we really have I'll say two true real-time payment networks in the US. We've got the Clearinghouse, which started processing in 2017, and you've now got the Federal Reserve's FedNow service, which went live last June or July 2023. So I'm going to get into the US opportunity. I'll take a pause here just because I can't, when I'm presenting, I can't see anyone. Anyone got any questions so far? Okay. So, all right. So let's talk about the, so as I kind of told you guys at the beginning, right, I'll give you kind of that overview, and then we'll talk about, when we start thinking about solutioning for RTP, specifically in the US and kind of my role within FIS, we'd like to know what the opportunity looks like. So, the demand for instant payments growing rapidly as business and individuals desire faster, more convenient payment experience. As I mentioned, US has been relatively slow to adopt in establishing, a domestic real-time payment network. But if you take a look at expected growth here, the US real-time payments market size is projected to reach approximately 105, maybe 106 billion by 2030, growing at a compound annual growth rate of 23.3%. So it's impressive. It's impressive growth here. Some of the drivers here. So 81% of businesses have indicated that real-time payments will dramatically transform the way they conduct their day-to-day business. 66% expect that real-time payments will eventually get rid of paper checks and cash entirely. Not so sure about cash, but checks, we've certainly seen a drop in countries that have adopted real-time networks, like in the UK. Checks are almost now non-existent where they were pretty prevalent 10, 15 years ago. 30% of consumers listing real-time payments as an important factor when picking an FI. So all of these drivers out there, that's what kind of the banks are kind of thinking about, right? And so, the benefit of the real-time payments to corporations is, instant availability of funds, enhanced cash flow management, improved liquidity, faster reconciliation process, reduced transaction time, some enhanced fraud detection and prevention, and better customer satisfaction and loyalty. So as banks are thinking about this, my next slide. Actually, before I flip to the next slide, so as banks are thinking about this, what we're seeing in the US is kind of this cross section of you've got real-time payments coming to the US. You've got banks really thinking about how they participate in real-time payments. But at the same time, over the last several years, you've really seen a transformation in the payment space. And then we're entering into a new payments era. Now, I've lifted this from McKinsey, who we work closely with. they've coined it the decoupled era. I couldn't come up with a better name myself, so I'm sticking with their naming convention. But really, what we're kind of seeing is you've got real-time payments coming to the U.S., and at the same time, you've got a situation with banks now that where their end customers' payments occur and where their accounts are not necessarily one and the same. And so account ownership is no longer, the exclusive domain of banks in that payment space. And what that really means is, I'm sure every one of you guys uses a Zelle, a Venmo, PayPal, anything like that. Anytime you make a deposit into your bank and then move money out of that account into one of those third-party digital wallets, the bank no longer participates in that payment value chain. Right? They don't make any money. They don't have care and control of where you are, what you're doing. So they've kind of lost a customer touch point. And that's kind of a real stick point for banks. So how do we help banks kind of be relevant in the era of real time and this era of decoupled payments? So just some points here. Payments becoming increasingly disconnected from accounts and users. So consumers have an even greater voice as they seek payment convenience, affordability, security. Our expectations around great experiences continue to heighten, and certainly the payments companies like the Venmos, the PayPals of the world are really differentiating themselves in that space right now. So banks need to seek more prominence and control across the value chain, but how? Right? So we think returns with the banks will occur to banks that can really not only capitalize on being able to move money in real time, but the ability to also seamlessly embed those type of payments into customer lifestyles and behaviors. And then, I always love this one, and hopefully all you entrepreneurs out there, right? Payments has really become a technology business. So, next generation technologies are really the foundation of most opportunities to scale business, both in terms of building new businesses as well as driving top line growth. So what does that kind of mean, right? So when you look out there with banks and they start thinking about real-time payments and being able to connect to the Fed or the clearinghouse, I'm gonna steal a phrase I got from one of our sales guys when we were on a road trip visiting a couple banks. And if you think of real-time payments as a superhighway, banks and the opportunity that kind of exists to them, as well as the fintechs who can help these banks, the real opportunity kind of lies with the on-ramp and off-ramp to this superhighway. So it's one thing to provide real-time payments rails. What do you do with it? And how do you help banks, specifically mid-tier and smaller type banks? How do you help them compete with disruptive technologies like the PayPals and the Venmos, or the tier one banks like the JP Morgans and the Citis who are out there and have several real-time payment offerings? So this next slide kind of describes, the real-time payment opportunities that we see exist, and they run the gamut from person to person, me to me, business to consumer, business to business, consumer to business. All of these payment types, represent the possibility of new business lines for banks. Banks are noticing. We're seeing a lot of fintechs pop up. Specifically, I've highlighted in red. So payroll, actually, I'll start with digital wallets. Digital wallets, probably the number one use case we're seeing from fintechs and real-time payments. Payroll and wage access. So think of early wage or earned wage access, right? So that worker who went to work today, earned his pay, the ability to deposit those wages right after a day's work. explosive growth, loan disbursements, and then payments in the gig economy. You know, the Ubers, the DoorDashes, the things like that. But the stuff that's not highlighted also very much, you know, we're starting to see, you know, fintechs, you know, pop up, and really start to offer some differentiating solutions in the market. And so banks are looking at this not only from a, you know, do we build this themselves? Do we, but as well, you know, do we acquire a fintech that can just do this for us, or do we partner? And a lot of times, what we're seeing in market is the banks looking to partner with fintech or with the likes of, you know, FIS to provide those white label solutions that are really focused on solving something specific in market. And, you know, being able to offer that bank that turnkey solution that says, you know, not only will I provide you, I'll pick on payroll for a second, you know, early wage access, but I'm going to drop it in, integrate it with the bank in such a way that the bank can white label it. The fintech, you know, provides those operations of servicing around that technology, all integrated with the bank's real-time payment connections. And again, just to kind of drive turnkey business solution that banks can go to market quickly with and start putting revenue on the board in terms of payments, as well then drive back relevance and gain kind of market share, and remain competitive against, you know, other banks, fintechs, and the payment disruptors. I'm going to pause here because the next set of slides I'm going to talk about kind of how we think about solutioning, and I thought that might be relevant for this group. But I'm going to pause. Any questions? I'm hoping I've got at least some of you still awake.
Any questions from anyone? You could put them in the chat as well, or come off mute.
Just good hitting the mark in terms of, you know, at least educating you on RTP and kind of what's, you know, how we're kind of thinking about it.
Well, I do have a question.
Sure.
So when you do a comparison in the US, so on the payment types, like, you know, differing between card present and card not present, do you have a stats on that?
Not off the top of my head, but yes, we do. Extensive. You can actually find a lot of that stuff online. So your question is, what is the difference between card present and card not present transactions, and what are the volumes of each?
No, on the stats, like, is it like, if I'm not mistaken, I think the card not present is more in the US, or is it the card present? Like, I just want to have an understanding on the problem. I mean, you know, the ratios between both, how is it, you know, it's like is it like a 60-40 or 50-50, or, you know, like on a percentage size?
Right. So on card not present, card present, I want to make sure I understand your question completely. So when you start talking about RTP in this type of use case, are you asking the percentage in terms of where these use cases involve a physical card versus the authorization of? Okay.
Absolutely, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what I would say, and I don't have stats handy, so I'm giving you kind of anecdotal off the top of my head. Prior to the launch of the real-time payment networks, certainly the majority of payments were, you know, card present. You've got your POS, you've got your your online shopping where you're typing in your credit card, things with that. When you saw the emergence of new digital wallets such as the Apple Pays, the Samsungs, the Googles, you start to see that card not present start to drop. Every one of these use cases generally involve, or a lot of them don't involve, the need for a physical card to be present. So I would expect, as you see these use cases and new offerings come to light from, you know, the fintechs and the banks, you will see a big shift to drive, you know, card present down to, it wouldn't surprise me if it was single percentage points in terms versus card not present, because a lot of these again involve, especially with like corporates, right? Involve direct integration of corporates' ERPs with the banks, and the banks enabling, ERPs with real-time payments such that businesses can move money in real time. The digital wallets. So again, I think you're going to see card not present transactions, basically shoot up, and card present transactions go down into single digits. But again, that's anecdotal. We do have stats on that, but I don't have them handy. So
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you, Jason. Thank you.
No problem.
Jason,
Did I
you
answer
had,
your question? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we had another question in the chat. So Arthur asked, what stops the US from getting into RTP sooner?
Oh, so if you take a look at other countries, and RTP, a lot of times there was some government assistance in getting in that. What I mean by that is regulations, right? Also, when you think of other countries, so I'm originally from Canada. I live in Denver these days, and so I can compare and contrast the two. Now, Canada has a lot of banks, but in terms of the majority of accounts, they're held across 6 banks. The US has thousands of banks, so driving standards across that large of a of a bank population, not easy to do. Other banks, you have a couple of the top tier banks institute this, the smaller ones will follow. Also, you had regulations. UK just comes right to top of mind because I knew that one really well. Those PSD2 regulations were driven by the banks, by the government, really trying to promote innovation and really trying to make sure that you had customer choice in market. So they forced the banks to open up. They allowed the fintechs to get access to accounts because their policy was, well, the end user, Jason, owns the account. The bank is just the it's just the the legal entity that kind of holds that account, but the owner is Jason. So when you have fintechs out there that are offering unique and differentiating kind of experiences that make things simpler for me, the government's view over there was we should foster that, and they fostered it through regulation. The U.S. is very remiss to. I know it sometimes doesn't seem like it, but very remiss to introduce wide sweeping types of legislation, especially on banks, because the impact that it has, across the I'll say the the tier ones all the way down to like the small community banks, can be pretty impactful. So that's my view on that one.
Thank you for that, Jason. Any other questions? Oh, we have another one. Dwayne, what would stop the government or other entities from taking my money?
You're giving me the good one there. All right. So what would stop the government from taking your money? So I'm not sure I understand the question. Are you saying it becomes easier with RTP to take the money? And if it is it because of that one use case I talked about where request for pay, where I can actually pull funds? I'm just trying to tie up the question with some of the stuff I talked about.
Yeah, correct. That's what I'm asking.
Okay. All right. So a couple of things. So on request for pay, this is getting into the weeds of it. If you actually took a look at that messaging scheme, really what it's meant to be is like, let's say your cell phone provider, your landlord, things of that nature. You've got payments due. One of the big pains for businesses is tracking incoming payments. So with request for pay, the idea being that I can automate an alert that goes out and says, hey Jason, you owe $200 on your cell phone bill due tomorrow. You okay if we pull the payment? They don't get to just pull the payment. I have to acknowledge and allow that. So it isn't just a, maybe I didn't explain that one well. It isn't just a blanket sweep that they can just take that. There has to be an acknowledgement from me that to allow them to do that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
And I think we had one more person. Prince, did you get to answer or ask your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, what are some ongoing innovations regarding international payment transactions? Like right now, we can review payments that are processed instantly, but international payments still take days to process. So what
Yeah.
are some ongoing innovations regarding that?
Yeah, so I would still say you've got a lot of opportunity in that space. If you've got this great idea, when you've got your company built, please come and call us. I'd love to have a conversation with you. But when you start talking about interoperability between the networks, I don't think that's there yet. Now, they've all agreed on the standard, the ISO 20022 type of message format, but interoperability between them has not kind of transpired. So when you start talking about international money movement or scheme to scheme type transfers, you have to come into those common pay rails right now. So international, it's things like Swift, which, takes, I believe it's 24 hours, or you get into like the third party networks like the, like Western Union, where I'd come from, who built their own networks, their own disbursement. So yeah, interoperability between the schemes is not there yet. So I'd say in international, you do have a lot of opportunity for innovation in that space. I would say a lot of the primary use cases come from domestic sends, and anytime that there's an international, 9 times out of 10, I would say in the background there's a legacy scheme that's being employed. Any others? Is that Prince Patel? Is that someone who has their hand up?
I think he just asked his question.
Okay.
So I think we're
Perfect.
good. I think we're good.
Okay. So this next slide, this is, I'm thinking, I'm hoping all of you in the room are thinking of, becoming entrepreneurs and striking out on your own and building your own kind of solutions, or some of you are thinking about product management and the like. I just thought I'd kind of end my talk tonight with kind of how we think about solutioning at FIS. So, as I mentioned before, I work in business development, but I work really closely with a lot of our product owners and all of our lines of business, right? And so when you think about, all right, how are we going to bring us kind of a solution to market? I kind of created a visual on how we're kind of thinking about that and considerations with RTP. So with that in mind, I'll roll. So when you start thinking about payments and creating a solution, and how do you go sell that solution en masse to banks? And I'm taking it from the bent of a bank because all real-time payments, or really any payment that traverses it goes through the U.S. There is generally a regulated entity, and in the U.S. it's banks and credit unions are really the only ones that can that can transmit money. There are some nuances with money transmitter licenses, but for the purposes of keeping it simple, assume banks and credit unions are the ones that actually can move that money. And so when they're thinking about, all right, they've integrated with the payment rails, when you start thinking about bringing solutions to market, some of the drivers to the banks, banks are thinking about how can they transform themselves, specifically in that payment space, such that they can grow, attain, and acquire new deposits and customers, as well as create new revenue streams. Obviously, they need to be innovative to compete with the payment disruptors and the larger banks. They want to be on technology that won't leave them orphaned. Obviously, you have to maintain regs and compliance and doesn't introduce too much risk. On, you know, on the FIS side, you know, how do we think about going from, you know, bank to bank to bank to bank and avoiding kind of these bespoke, you know, custom type implementations with the bank that eat just a ton of resources. Well, we want to basically make sure when we think about solutions, how can I integrate quickly to banks and get them up and running? So one of the things we like to look at is, you know, APIs, and specifically how we're thinking about payment solutions with respect to banks is we know that with real-time payments, everything has to go back to the core at the bank. And for those of you guys that are unfamiliar with the term, you know, when I say a core, that's basically where your account is held, right? The foundation of any bank is really their core. You might have heard it referred to as kind of a general ledger, but that's the solution set that has the customer, the account data, the transaction data, and the ability to post those real-time debits and credits. So how we think about it is, rather than going from bank to bank, is if we can get to the back office providers such as FIS and do direct integrations to you know, the solutions that the banks use, it makes it easier to go to a bank and say, hey, listen, I've got a solution. I've already pre-integrated to your back office. Now you taking on my solution becomes kind of easier in market. Once we've done that, you know, now we can layer on our money movement solutions, right? So, you know, whatever your solution is, you're going to be providing a function that, you know, moves a transaction with the Fed, the clearinghouse, wires, ACH, the like. You know, you've got to think about, you know, how you route that payment, how you manage that payment, you know, the real-time transaction monitoring and risk. We figure that out. You then have, you know, most of our solutions simplified API to allow for integration into any digital channel. Obviously, when you talk to some of these banks, they know what APIs are, but they don't have the staff to do the types of implementations that would require, you know, integration APIs. So their expectation around providing a full UI UX that is white label is very much forefront with specifically, I'll call it mid-tier banks and down, being able to provide those real-time events and analytics, and then a unified back office to, again, you know, enable, you know, whatever use case you're playing in the payment spectrum. So I just thought I'd share that. Might be interesting to you guys. I just kind of thought, you know, a practical kind of how we're thinking about bringing, you know, solution and the considerations that we take into account when talking about presenting something back to a bank. So with that, I think that's it. So I'm going to come back on camera. And yeah, I hope that was informative, and I hope you guys got something out of that. I tried to I came into this saying, please don't put them to sleep.
No, I think this was really insightful. Looks like we had a couple questions that we didn't get to in the chat. Does the future hold Apple Pay that bypasses the bank, meaning your pay can automatically can your payment be automatically deposited into Apple Pay? How does that affect real-time payments, since it appears that the bank is still central?
Mr. Williams, you're muted.
All right, thank you very much. When you so Apple Pay actually has a bank account behind it. I'm not sure if any of you guys knew that, but it does. So they partnered with I can't remember the name of the bank. So Goldman was their credit card. Who was their bank? I have to look that up. But there is a bank that your Apple Pay account that holds $100 is actually held at a financial institution. So that bank is blind to you, or you're blind to that bank and its existence, but it exists in the background. And when you look at the T's and C's of your Apple Pay or Apple Pay digital wallet, it's fully disclosed there because that's U.S. law requires a full disclosure of that. If you're like me, you might not read all the fine print, but there is a bank behind Apple Pay. So now that I've gone on that explanation, what was the actual question? So I can answer that succinctly. So can you deposit your pay right to your Apple Card? The answer to that is technically yes. Practically, I do not believe they allow it. And when I say technically yes, right, because there's a bank account behind it, because that bank is integrated to, forget RTP for a second, just any of the regular ACH type rails, you could make a deposit into that account. Now, Apple and the product that they've gone and created, I do not believe, I'm 90% on this, I do not believe they actually allow that at all. And so just by the nature of the product that Apple has created, they don't allow it. So from a business perspective, it's not allowed. Technically, could you do it? The answer is yes. Does that answer your question?
All right. I know
Yes,
we
that
have,
answered it.
oh, thank you, Emma. Thanks for confirming. I know there's another question in the chat from Arthur around a bigger push for personal finance classes in K-12 education.
I couldn't agree
Why
with you
is
more.
there not? Yeah.
I come from a family of educators. I couldn't agree with you more, especially around. I'm going to go on a bit of a on a 5-second rant, especially around investments and retirement. I think I've got several years on all of you, and I'll tell you, it goes by quick. And so having that financial education up front, I think is so critical. I wish they taught it. I don't know why they don't.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, and I appreciate that perspective, Jason. So, as part of the Georgia FinTech Academy, obviously one of our prerequisites is financial literacies. We instruct courses to students in a variety of different disciplinary areas, from data science, computer engineering, to more business centric related courses as well. I know a lot of you that are on the call are in our FinTech Foundation, specifically in some of the banking courses. We are at a stage where we have developed a curriculum all the way at the secondary level. So there are high schoolers that are engaging with the FinTech Academy. And I think a lot of people don't know that, just because we don't necessarily promote it in all channels, like in this particular forum. But there are pathways all the way down to the secondary level here in the state of Georgia, where we're not only helping deliver financial literacy curriculum, but then also exposing students to some of the training and education that we offer here at the collegiate level as early as their junior and senior year in high school. And so that's been a big focus in financial literacy. For those that do not know, this is National Financial Literacy Month. And some of the events that I was kind of dropping earlier, as far as following us out on Group Me, are industry related events that are targeted towards a younger demographic to kind of promote financial literacy and addressing some of the concerns that we see across the industry. And FIS, who is our sponsor for today's conversation, is at the helm of helping do that much broader than just the state of Georgia. And so thank you to FIS for being partners, helping facilitate that via the Georgia FinTech Academy, but they're also doing it as an organization much more broadly.
Since I'm the only FIS rep on the call, I will take
I know.
full credit for it, and you're welcome.
I think we
But
also
no,
got
I'm
Jessica
glad.
too.
Jokes aside, I'm glad. I think I think the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest, and people need to know about that and all that stuff. So I'm glad that that's occurring.
So we got a few more questions out here in the chat. Oh, it looks like Jessica also put in the chat the financial literacy site, which Jessica, thank you for reminding me, because we were actually about to do a push on social media. So this is a great time to mention it. But FIS has developed an amazing free tool. And if you guys don't use this yourselves, please promote and share this amongst your network, your families, your friends. They have an adult track and a young adult student track in this financial literacy tool that Jessica just popped in there. And it's gamified certain aspects of financial literacy, everything from banking to credit to investments in a very creative way, leveraging some, back end data from the Federal Reserve and them being FIS being a major fintech player globally, have access to all this data and information and have prepared a training mechanism and tool for financial literacy.
Awesome.
Again, this is just a free thing that people can leverage more, and I couldn't be more excited that Jessica put that in there, because that's a very big resource that's free. Again, I keep saying free. It's free. Use it, share it, and promote it, because I think tools like this also will help move the needle to people who can't necessarily get access to direct in-person training, such as you guys are honored to have with Jason being on this call this evening. And so I'll get off my soapbox with that. And I know we're kind of running low on time. And if anyone has any questions that they would like to come off mute, I'll let you guys go, and then we'll turn it over to Jessica. All right, Jason, I think you're off the hook for any more questions. Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for having me. And again, I hope this was informative.
Very
So
much
with that, thank you very much, and yeah, good luck to everyone in your future. Thank you.
One final question. What's your title again, Jason?
So you have me. I got to update my LinkedIn. My new title. So I was with FIS Impact Ventures. Impact Ventures, this is giving you way too much detail, has been absorbed back in the business. So right now I am vice president of business development for retail solutions and money movement. It's a big,
that
long,
is a lengthy one.
It's a big, lengthy one, right? That's my official title. But
all right,
I would just say VP Business Development.
Okay, I've got you covered.
Yeah.
And
excuse me, I had a question that I just got thought about.
Yes, go ahead.
I was trying to ask, is there a way to integrate blockchain technology into the RTP and just?
Yes. Yep. There is a ton of fintech work to do exactly that, right? So into the blockchain, off the blockchain, because obviously the any of the Web3 payments are by nature real time, but getting money in, getting money out, a lot of work being done in that area. Also, lots of regulation around that one as well.
And when do you see that happening? Like actually coming to
It's
fruition?
happening now. There's but you guys are familiar with Cash App, right?
Yeah.
They play in that space, being able to move. Those of you not familiar with it, Cash App, I believe, is a subsidiary of or one of the companies that PayPal owns. But the ability to hold U.S. currency, and well as buy and sell. I know Bitcoin. I'm not sure. You guys will probably keep me honest. What other digital currencies they trade in, but once you've onboarded with that Cash App and you've gone through, your customer, and you've gone through that onboard process, the purchasing back and forth of Bitcoin into US dollars is pretty much instantaneous. And the funding of that account too is now they use same day ACH, but they're moving towards real time. So companies like that, there's a lot of players coming up in that space. I know that one specifically just from previous encounters with them. So that's the one I've referenced.
Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Jason.
Well, thanks again for your time, guys. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, bye.
All right. And then Jessica, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Hold on 1 second. Let me get my slides. Can y'all see my screen?
Yep.
Beautiful. So after that amazing conversation, hopefully you all learned something new. I know I surely do. Every time I attend these calls, I'm like, oh, I didn't know we did that. So I always have a great time on these. And as always, we end with me talking about the university program and our opportunities. And so I'll start off basically talking about what FIS University is. So FISU is our entry-level program to help talent kick off their career here at FIS with the goal and hope that you'll stay for a while. So it's a 2-year entry-level program. We have a plethora of opportunities across the business that range from our developers and our engineering teams all the way up to our sales clients support teams as well. And so both for our internship and our full-time program, we have opportunities. So whether you are interested in more engineering and actually helping to build the systems that we sell to our clients and work with our clients on, or you're interested in managing projects and things, whatever your major is, there are plenty of opportunities within our organization. And so as our program, there are 2 options to join. We have a full-time track and our internship track. And so I'll go into a little bit more details about each one of the areas of our program. So the first area is our internship. It is a 10-week summer program. During the 10 weeks, you can work from anywhere from being a software engineering intern all the way to project manager. I'm currently hiring a HR intern for our diversity and inclusion and wellness area of our business. So definitely plenty of opportunities to explore what it looks like to work at FIS. And so this isn't one of those internships where, you just sit around and bring someone coffee. I know that's a very cheesy example, but that kind of internship, you will actually get to work on projects in teams to see what it looks like to work at FIS. The goal of our and the reason for that is because the goal of our internship program is to convert as many of our hires as possible into full-time roles upon graduation. So a lot of the projects and things that you'll work on will be actually things that you'll do if given an offer to join after you graduate. And the only caveat with our internship program is that you must be a rising senior. So this cycle, we're looking for people graduating by May 2025. Unfortunately, for our internship program, sponsorship is not available at this time. And so outside of the work that you'll be doing on your individual teams, you'll also have the opportunity to participate in some career and professional development as well. And so during the summer, we'll have like weekly webinars and have senior leaders and executives come in and talk to you all, depending on what, in all the office locations, you'll actually get to meet and see some of our execs, which is pretty cool as well. We also have like fun Fridays and social activities. So we'll do like trivia. We've done like scavenger hunts. One time we had them like building like marshmallow towers and things. So lots of fun while you are also getting to experience how it looks like to work at FIS. And we're fun in the full-time role too. So it's not just like, oh, intern fun, no fun full-time. Today, some of our new hires actually were in the game room playing some games in our Jacksonville office. And so just to give you a sneak peek of like what it would like to work at FIS. And so this is a sample of what we typically do in the summer. So as I was talking about some of the examples of our weekly webinars, my favorite one is our rhyme and rhythm challenge, because I get to see how creative some of our hires are. One year, they had did a remix on the Fresh Prince entrance song. And so they remixed it to like a FIS version, which was really cool. But we have lots of fun, different activities, and every year it changes. So just an opportunity to like learn more, also have some fun as well. We also do some career development. So after your internship, how do you talk about your experience on your resume? And then some more fun and social activities. We also do volunteering as well. So last cycle, some of our interns went to like the Humane Society or the pet shelter. I can't remember what it's called. And then also food banks and things within their community, because full-time employees also have 8 hours of community service. So again, showing you all what it looks like to be an employee with FIS. And so here are some pictures of our beautiful interns having fun last summer in the various offices. I always like to shout out Jax because I am in Florida. Go Gators. No. I just did that. But in our Jacksonville, outside of that, we have this really cool golf simulator. So some of our interns literally every Friday or in the afternoon when they're not working, they'll go down there and then they'll just hang out and play for a little bit, just to relax and de-stress. We also have a relaxation room in there. And so tomorrow I'm going to finally enjoy our relaxation pod. I'm excited about that. But each of our offices have unique offerings and things. So our Atlanta office is like Midtown Atlanta, where the Target and movie theater is. When I last went over there, and that was a really cool space. I haven't been to Milwaukee and Cincinnati yet, but they do have amazing things in those offices to, make the experience better. So really fun opportunity to kind of see what it looks like to work at FIS through the summer. And then our 2-year program is a bit longer of a commitment. It is a 2-year full-time job, so it is a permanent position within our company. After you complete the program, you do still have a job, so people ask me that all the time. It's just that during those 2 years, it's a little bit more for focused learning and development. So you'll be working as some of the same positions that I talked about. So project managers, software engineers, business systems analysts, amongst other positions as well. It's just that we also have some more structured, longer career and professional development opportunities for you. So instead of like monthly workshops, it's a little bit longer. For our full-time program, we have 4 start dates to kind of align with people's graduation time for some of them. So January, March, June, and September. So currently we are working on filling our June and September positions. Our positions are open to all majors, so you don't have to be like a business systems student or a engineering student to apply. There are plenty of opportunities from students from different backgrounds and experiences. For all of our positions, the main thing is that you just must have a bachelor's degree by the time you start. And then again, unfortunately, for our full-time roles as well, sponsorship is not available for any of those. And so some of the perks and benefits of our 2-year full-time program is the opportunity to connect with your manager in biannual merit review and raise opportunities. So kind of being rewarded for good performance, and you get twice a year versus once a year, which is most people have. Another really, really cool perk, which I some days want to just, apply to one of these positions, is our student loan repayment program. Don't know how many of you all on this call have student loans, but when those things start being due, you're like, wait a minute. But a really cool perk we have is a student loan repayment program where FIS will help pay the principal balance on any undergraduate student loans you have in your name. All you have to do is pay interest for up to 10 years or until the loan is paid off, which is really cool. That's addition to what your paycheck will be while you're in the company. We also have career and professional development, social networking opportunities within our full-time program as well. And so here is an example of our learning week. So our learning week is our structured onboarding to help bring in our new hires, since we hire in a cohort model. And so the learning week, you get to do a deeper dive into our company and learn a little bit more about who we are and what we do. We have panels with senior leaders and other executives, and also current program participants as well. At the end of the week, there's a final presentation that you'll get to do with some of the people that you participated in learning with, and then a celebration at the end. So it's designed to really help you have a strong foundational of knowledge to help you start a successful career and learning journey with us. And so something else that we have as well within the program that you're able to take advantage of is our inclusion networks. So our inclusion networks are company sponsored networks, or ESGs is what other companies, or ERGs or some other companies call them. And they're centered around different dimensions of diversity. Currently, FIS has 9 of them. And so they'll host different events in the office locations. So like Adelante, for example, I won a free year of Duolingo through one of their trivia events, which was really cool. And they'll also bring in different speakers. So for Black History Month, we brought Dr. X, I think is his name. I can't remember because we had to switch it from Grandmaster Flash, but we'll bring in speakers to talk about different things. And so that's a really cool opportunity to get involved and build community within the organization as well. And so that is the end of my presentation. Hopefully at this point you feel really excited about our opportunities. I think we are one of the best companies in the world. And I don't just say that because I'm a recruiter. We have some really amazing opportunities for entry-level talent. And so if you are interested, all of our positions that are currently open are posted on our career site. All you have to do is go on there and then under category, select the FIS University program, and it will show you all of our opportunities. And so if you ignore the QR code, if you have any questions, I'll come off I'll stop sharing, and then we'll see. Does anybody have any questions? I assume
I
not.
know, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Don't email me on LinkedIn. No,
Yeah, you got Jessica right now, right here. Oh, we got a question. Can you still apply for summer internship positions?
Yes. So if you are, so the internship program is for juniors, essentially. You have to be graduating by May 2025. Yes, you can still apply. We do still have positions posted, not as many at this point, but there are still a couple open left. I forgot to talk about location. Majority of our positions that we hire for are in Jacksonville, Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Cincinnati, Ohio. And there are positions left, I think, in all of those locations if you're interested. We do not have a co-op program at this time. We only have an internship and a full-time program, so not multiple cycles. No more questions. Well, if you do have any additional questions after this presentation, I'll drop my LinkedIn in the chat. I was just kidding. You are more than welcome to please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to assist you. I'll also drop the link to the career site on in the chat as well. So if you want to just take a look and see opportunities. And then what do recruiters, oh, I'll also put more about the program on here too, if you're interested. I'm doing all the work for y'all.
Yeah.
No, I can't. So what do we look for in a resume? It depends on the position. So some of our managers are looking for more technical candidates, and you can tell by the job description what they're looking for. So if I'm looking for a more technical candidate, I'm looking for like of technical experiences. So do they have the programming languages that the manager and team are looking for? And then on top of that, do you have experience outside of just going to school? So it doesn't really matter if it's an internship, a job, volunteer opportunities, getting involved in student organizations. What are you doing outside of school? Some people have full-time jobs. That's what we're looking for. So experiences outside of just pursuing your degree is what we're looking for. And do you have those skills from those experiences that would make you a good candidate for the role? And you're talking about that clearly in the resume. Any other questions? I assume not.
I think we're good, Jessica. Thank you so much for your time. And
No
thank you all
problem.
for joining. We look forward to our next session Monday next week, I believe.
Well, y'all have a good rest of your evening.
Everyone.